Today, if you look at a map, you'll see that Nineveh is a set of ruins located in northern Iraq, near modern-day Mosul. It may seem like a pile of rubble, but 2,800 years ago, it was the heart of the greatest empire in the world, Assyria. And not the Assyria that was just getting started. No, during Sennacherib's time, it was an imperial conquest machine, ruthless, incredibly effective, and as modern as it could be for that time. If something had a wall in the Middle East, the Assyrians would break through it. If a king wore a crown, he had to reckon with the fact that soon he'd be in Nineveh, on his knees. From Egypt to Iran, everyone either trembled at the thought of Assyria or was already its subject. And it was at that time that Sennacherib decided it was time to upgrade the capital. Babylon? He was going to overshadow it. Egyptian Thebes? They were going to look like a fishing village compared to what he had in mind. That's how the Palace Without Rival was born. A name that sounds like something a PR specialist would come up with, but this time, it wasn't an exaggeration. How big was this palace? 80 rooms, nearly 500 meters long, walls thicker than Sennacherib's own ego. But it wasn't just the size that impressed, it was the details that made visitors' jaws drop. Imagine you're invited to an audience. Right at the entrance, you feel that this isn't just any place. Gigantic Lamassu statues, winged bulls with human faces, guard the gate, and they're looking at you, literally. No matter where you move, their gaze follows you. You start wondering if it's a matter of sculptural genius or some ancient version of deepfake technology. You walk through a narrow corridor and suddenly, bam! You step out onto a courtyard larger than anything you've ever seen. The walls are covered with reliefs that leave no doubt. Assyria rules and everyone else cries. Some depict bloody battles, others show everyday life in the empire. In the background, fountains, exotic gardens, and a complex system of canals delivering water straight from the Tigris. Yes, in those days, water engineering was at a level that some modern cities can only dream of. But that's just the introduction. At the end of the courtyard rises a true masterpiece, the actual palace. The facade screams one thing: absolute power. Reliefs depict conquered cities, defeated kings, and crowds of prisoners kneeling before Sennacherib, as if it were some ancient version of Game of Thrones. But there's more. Technological marvels. And now the question, what exactly did this palace conceal? Because if you think it was just a nice building, well, you'll change your mind in a moment. The Palace of Sennacherib was not just an ordinary building. It was something more, a fortress, a museum, and a technological center all in one. The ancient version of the Pentagon, the Louvre, and NASA's lab, except instead of scientists, it was full of warriors, scribes, and people who knew how to build things others couldn't even imagine. Its walls? Gigantic reliefs that not only decorated the interiors, but also told stories. It was an ancient comic book in deluxe version. Brutal battles, triumphs over enemies, processions of prisoners kneeling before the king. In short, a typical day in the Assyrian Empire. But among these scenes there was something else. Images of technological marvels. Because Sennacherib wasn't just another ruler obsessed with conquest, he was a technology fanatic, an innovator, the guy who believed aqueducts were the future. And it wasn't about making life more comfortable for anyone, but about pure prestige. Water had to flow into the palace and gardens because the ruler of Nineveh didn't water plants like the commoners. He created engineering systems that would be impressive even today. And here's the biggest mystery. We all know the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the world. But what if I told you they might not have been in Babylon at all? Yeah, some historians believe the ancient Greeks got the location wrong, and that it was in Nineveh where the gardens, which later became legendary, were actually located. Sounds shocking? Think about it. Nineveh had everything: an advanced irrigation system that delivered water wherever the king desired, wealth that allowed for projects worthy of today's billionaires, ambition to create something so monumental that future generations would consider it a wonder. Is it possible that this is where the prototype of the Hanging Gardens existed? And if so, how many other historical certainties could collapse if we dug a little deeper? But Nineveh hid another secret, something that changed our understanding of ancient history: the Library of Ashurbanipal. Hundreds of years after Sennacherib, his descendant, King Ashurbanipal, decided to do something no one had attempted on such a scale before: to gather all available knowledge and lock it in one place. The result? The first great library of the world. Thousands of clay tablets inscribed in cuneiform script, from scientific texts to prophecies to one of humanity's oldest epics, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Yes, without this library, we might never have known this story. But now the key question: did Ashurbanipal really want to create a library for knowledge? Or perhaps, did he have a completely different reason? Imagine 19th century archaeologists digging through the ruins of Nineveh. Dust, stones, remnants of a destroyed city, and suddenly hundreds, then thousands of clay tablets covered in mysterious markings. This wasn't just another day at work, it was one of the greatest discoveries in human history. The Library of Ashurbanipal, the first great library in the world. I say first because nothing discovered later ever came close to what was unearthed from the ruins of Nineveh. But what exactly was found there? This sounds like the beginning of a Hollywood production. The Epic of Gilgamesh, a tale from 4,000 years ago, full of heroism, friendship, the search for immortality, and a flood. Sound familiar? Yes, yes. Modern research has shown that the description of the flood in Gilgamesh is almost identical to the biblical story of Noah's Ark. What? Did the ancients invent the flood before Noah did it his way? Coincidence? Unlikely. What if these stories are like an extended movie on the same theme, just with different characters? Astronomical records. The Assyrians weren't just warriors, they were also pioneers in science. They observed the stars, recorded eclipses, and predicted the movements of planets. Okay, maybe they didn't have telescopes like we do today, but their research had a huge impact on the development of astronomy in the centuries that followed. Who knows, maybe the first rumors of cosmic beings came from here? Perhaps the Assyrians were the first astronauts? Who knows what else was on their minds? Royal letters and everyday life documents. And now, the real souvenirs from vacation in Assyria. Thanks to these tablets, we can peek into the world of ancient Assyria. What did taxes look like? How was trade conducted? Or maybe most interesting, what problems did the ordinary people of Nineveh face? Who would have thought that an ancient papyrus or clay tablet could tell us how in ancient times something broke or there's no bread for dinner? History at the level of what to do when you want to fix your grain supplies? But how on earth did all of this survive? And now the surprise? The Library of Ashurbanipal survived thanks to a catastrophe. Yes, exactly. It wasn't a happy ending, but rather a tragedy with a happy ending. In 612 before the Common Era, the Babylonians and Medes invaded Nineveh. The city burned for days, and what was supposed to be the end became its salvation. Because you know what happened? The clay tablets that were burned in the fire hardened like ceramic. This allowed them to survive for thousands of years. All that destruction turned out to be the most perfect kiln for firing the tablets in history. Who would have thought that fire was what saved them? And now, think about it for a moment. How many such libraries could have existed in the ancient world? How much knowledge was lost forever? Or maybe, somewhere deep underground, another Ashurbanipal library is waiting for us? What if we're soon going to witness another epical discovery? Imagine this moment: dust, heat, and a group of workers with shovels. In the background, layered, sweaty, covered in dirt but with eyes full of excitement. And what does he see? Something starting to emerge from the earth. No, it wasn't just another forgotten cellar. First, a massive winged bull with a human face. A giant lamassu, the guardian of an ancient city. It was as if someone had carved it from the rock, just waiting for the moment to rise. Then, more fragments of sculptures, reliefs, walls covered in cuneiform, as if someone had left magical traces in the stone. These weren't the ruins of a random settlement. Oh no, this was something grand. In an instant, Layard realizes he is standing over the remains of the legendary Nineveh. Yes, the same Nineveh we've all heard about in history books, but no one knew where to find it. Because, hey, someone in ancient times may have written something about this incredible civilization, but did anyone truly know where it was hiding? It turns out it was exactly where the archaeologists least expected it, and this was just the beginning. As Layard delves deeper into exploring the palace, he comes across something that changes everything. Gigantic halls filled with records, hundreds of clay tablets. A moment when you begin to ask yourself, what is going on here? And then, he doesn't know yet that he's just discovered the Library of Ashurbanipal, the oldest great library in the world. Yes, you're right, the first great library, not some small cellar with scribbles. Europe went wild. In the 19th century, people thought Assyria was just a legend from the Bible, something that could be found in history books, but certainly not in reality. And then, boom! The discovery of the year. It turned out that Assyria was not just a real empire, but its capital held not only military might, but also intellectual wealth that left everyone in shock. Now think about this. How many more ancient cities are waiting to be discovered? How many lost civilizations lie there beneath our feet, waiting for the moment when someone comes up with the idea to dig up another story that could change everything we've known about the past? But does this mean the history of Nineveh has come to an end? Ha! Not at all. History is not just about stones and ruined walls. It's a story about people, those who once built Nineveh, as well as those who are fighting today to preserve it. Because let's not forget, the survival of history doesn't end where the stone ends. Modern conflicts, especially the actions of ISIS from 2014 to 2017, were not kind to Nineveh. The winged bulls, shattered into pieces. The reliefs, partially destroyed, as if someone took a hammer and decided that ancient art wasn't worth preserving. But impossible. Of course not, because what seemed lost is now coming back thanks to technology. 3D scanning, yes, you heard that right. 3D scanning. Scientists can now recreate reliefs once thought to be lost forever. Museums around the world are housing salvaged fragments, and Iraqi archaeologists and conservators are doing everything they can to save what remains. Nineveh has not died. It lives on, but in a new form. Who would have thought that 21st century technology would become the savior of this ancient city? Now, imagine this. What if there's still some undiscovered chamber lying beneath the earth? What if there's another tablet waiting for us, or even a forgotten part of the Library of AssyrianEmpire? Can you feel that thrill? Maybe in a few years we'll hear about some incredible discovery that will force us to look at this entire history from a completely new perspective. And who knows, maybe one day we'll uncover something that completely changes our knowledge of the past. How would you feel if we were standing on the verge of something truly monumental? So, the history of Nineveh is more than just a story about an ancient city. It's a reminder that empires rise and fall, but the knowledge they leave behind can last for thousands of years. The Palace of Sennacherib, the Library of Ashurbanipal, the mythical gardens, all of these once existed and, in part, still do, beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered. Now, a question for you. If you could unearth one lost treasure of antiquity, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe because the upcoming episodes will take you even deeper into the mysteries of the ancient world. See you soon.